everybody. I'm Megan, and this is my friend Rob.
Hello.
So Rob, say some stuff about yourself. Introduce yourself.
I'm Rob, Washington, D.C. tour guide, founder of TripHacks DC Tours, and today, of all days, I'm in New York City, and Megan just bumped into her on the street with a phone and a gimbal, and we're going to do a live stream. So
I thought that I might need my gimbal and my microphone today. I never travel with them, but I was like, today I feel like I might, so I'm really glad. And what we're going to do today is we're going to walk down Fifth Avenue. So I'll very shortly turn the camera around so that you can see Fifth Avenue. If you have any questions, I know right now there's only one person, but maybe more will join. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm happy to attempt to answer any questions that you might have about Fifth Avenue. So let's get started. Okay, well, right now we're looking at the backs of some tourists. But if we head this way,
that's the hotel from Home Alone 2, is it not?
It is the hotel from Home Alone 2. So this is, do you know the name of this hotel?
The Plaza.
This is the Plaza Hotel. That is absolutely correct. It is famous for being the hotel that Kevin McAllister stayed in during Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. If you're also a fan of Eloise, if you've heard of Eloise at the Plaza, this is where Eloise lived. That was based off of, I've been told, Liza Minnelli's early childhood, because she actually lived in the Plaza for a little bit. And I sometimes give tours to people staying in the Plaza. Once I was picking up some guests, and right in that entrance, Lady Gaga walked out. Just tons of fans waiting outside. And then if anyone is a Gossip Girl fan, that is where Chuck Bass tells Blair Waldorf, I love you for the very first time. So as a Gossip Girl fan, I love that. Now right now we're looking at Nathan's Hot Dogs.
Now is this a genuine Nathan's, or did they just borrow the logo for the little hot dog stand here?
So technically these are all genuine Nathan's. They're like little tiny satellite Nathan's. Now this is an interesting question to ask Rob. So maybe I'll have Rob run out in front of the camera between Nathan's. So Rob actually did something really fun yesterday. He took a tour. He took a Chelsea Market food tour, and you tasted a hot dog.
Yeah, but it was a fancy hot dog. It was from a fancy butcher that had all kinds of steaks and cold cuts, and it was not a mass-produced hot dog like this, I assume. Nathan's, which I have in the supermarket near my home.
Should we try a Nathan? Should we get one?
I've had plenty of Nathan's, so I'll pass on that.
You've had plenty of Nathan's? No, I've not had lunch, so maybe I'll get a Nathan.
Okay, well we can
we'll
document this experience here.
Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna just get normal Nathan. Now this is a $4 hot dog, so that's that's just ridiculous. But you know, the things that I will do to showcase New York. Now, Nathan's Famous Hot Dogs was founded in 1916, way out in Coney Island, Brooklyn. Now, Coney Island, it takes a long time. From here, it would take over an hour to get out to Coney Island. So instead of going out to Coney Island, I will sometimes go to these little booths. There's one right by the Statue of Liberty, like when you get off the boat for Statue of Liberty, that I like to frequent. Let's see. Can I just get a plain hot dog, please?
There's a lot of choices.
There are a lot of choices.
I assume there would only be a small number of choices, but
I'm not gonna lie, the French fries are really good as well. But today we're just doing the hot dog because tomorrow is my birthday and I'm celebrating it tonight. Yes, just a little bit of, just a little bit of mustard and a little bit of ketchup. Yep.
That's it, $4.
That is all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. What do we think of this hot dog? Now, how does this compare to your fancy
I mean,
butcher's
that
hot
looks
dog?
exactly like how I would expect a hot dog from a cart on the street to look like. The big difference with the fancy butcher hot dog was that it had, well, what our tour guide said was a natural casing, which meant that it had a very distinct snap on the hot dog, and it was good. Whereas that looks like it, was mass-produced in a factory, which I'm sure it was.
All right, shall we do a taste test? I mean, I've had these before, so I like them, but let's find out. It's really good.
For a side of the street hot dog?
It's really good. Now, one of the things that Rob and I were talking about last night was what actually makes a New York hot dog a New York hot dog. Is there something special? One of the things we often talk about is the spices in the hot dog. And it does taste just like very flavorful. So I really, really enjoy that. All right, I'm gonna eat more hot dog.
Now, I know in some parts of the world, some parts of the country, they would get upset if you put ketchup on the hot dog. You got ketchup and mustard on your hot dog.
I did.
But I feel like when I see people eating a New York hot dog on the street like this, it often does have both the ketchup and the mustard.
I mean, some people like relish, all sorts of things. But here, starting out with the New York City experience, I'm gonna hop back on the gimbal. We are looking at some more tourists. Now, as we walk down Fifth Avenue, very often Fifth Avenue is really famous for shopping. So right now we're going to look into one of the windows. This is Bergdorf Goodman. Something very unique about Bergdorf Goodman here on Fifth Avenue is that there's actually two of them. So right now we are looking at the men's Bergdorf Goodman. Kind of peek in the windows, you can see all men's clothing in there. But if we go across the street, we have the women's Bergdorf Goodman. And a fun fact about this building, so if you look at this building, it's really big, right? Well, there used to be an even larger building right here on this block. And that larger building was a single family home that belonged to the Vanderbilt family, which is just wild.
I was going to say that's impossible until you said who owned it, and then it seems entirely possible.
Yeah, they're the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, the Morgans, the Fricks, they all owned property here along Fifth Avenue at one point in time. So
now that's the store where Anna ran up a big tab on her friend's account in the show, Inventing Anna.
Yes, it is. So I don't know if anybody here has seen Inventing Anna. Rob and I both really love this show. It's about Anna Delvey, or Anna, I always pronounce her real last name incorrectly, Sorokin. But she duped a lot of New York City's elite socialites into giving her lots of free things. So we have Tiffany & Company. Now this is actually the original location for Tiffany & Company here on Fifth Avenue, but it's under a little bit of renovation. So they actually have a different entrance right now that's a little bit further down on 57th Street. Now when I'm giving tours along Fifth Avenue, I've noticed that when people come to New York City, they have a lot of emotions about one of New York City's residents. This person's name is Donald Trump. And they always want to get out their emotions. And I always tell them that you're going to have a few seconds to get out your emotions when we go down Fifth Avenue, because here we are going by Trump Tower. This is where Donald Trump announced that he was running for the presidency, and it is where Donald Trump lived, and he does own part of this building. So this is Trump Tower right there. So if you have an emotion, feel free to let it out, but then we're going to get rid of our Donald Trump emotions, and we're going to focus on shopping and fun history, because that's more fun, I have discovered, than Donald Trump emotions. What do you think, Rob?
Well, I don't know about shopping, but history for sure. Definitely a history buff.
You're not a big shopper?
These stores out here, I can only really afford window shopping, I think.
Yeah.
But I've noticed, and I'm curious about this. So you have the streets and the avenues in New York City, and the avenues are the main thoroughfares. And it seems like some of the avenues are more chill than others. Some are really always pop in and some are more chill. Is that your experience too? Is that a
Yes.
correct observation, or am I imagining that?
No, that is absolutely a correct observation. Just real fast, over this way, we have the Fifth Avenue Presbyterian Church. Now, Rob and I actually did a collaboration together when I visited DC about the Roosevelts. And it's just worth mentioning that in 1910, Theodore Roosevelt Jr. got married here in this church. And also, real fast, if you want to write in the chat, because I just love knowing who's here and who's talking, feel free to say hi. Feel free to say where you're visiting from. Feel free to say your name. Feel free to ask any questions that you might have about New York City. But in the meantime, I'm going to answer Rob's question about how busy the streets are. This is Fifth Avenue. Fifth Avenue, I would consider to be one of the busiest streets here in New York City. It's very commercial. It's very like boppin'. Pretty much all the time. There's a lot of interesting restaurants off the way, and this street has a very important function. This is the Great Divide. This street divides the east side from the west side. So it's really in the middle of Manhattan. Everything off to our right, that's in that direction, that is the west side of Manhattan, and everything off to this side, that is the east side of Manhattan. Now, if we were to walk literally one block east, we have somebody visiting or tuning in from California. Hello, opposite coast. So if we were to go one block further east, we'd get to Madison. Madison has a very residential feel to it. It's much quieter. Most of the stores close a lot earlier. And where if you look here, we don't really have any apartments on Fifth Avenue. The space is all commercial. On Madison Avenue, you have commercial space on the ground, and then you have apartments above. And the people who live in those apartments above don't like the noise, so it tends to be much more quiet.
Now, is there a fourth, or is Madison what fourth used to be, or how does that naming scheme work?
Yeah, so essentially, we have someone from Baltimore. Hello, Baltimore. I don't know if I'm going to get myself in trouble here, but I really love the Baltimore Ravens. So if you're a Ravens fan, go Ravens. Now the naming of the avenues, it is pretty funny because for the most part in Midtown, we do have numbered streets and numbered avenues. But when you get east of Fifth, we have exciting names like Madison and Lexington and Park. Essentially, when the original grid system was put into place, it was imperfect. We actually had too much space between some of the avenues. So we went in and we added more avenues later. And instead of having like 5.5 Avenue,
Okay.
5 3/4 Avenue, they gave them fun names. Now, I shamefully do not know what Lexington is named for. My understanding is that Park has something to do with Central Park, but Madison, that is named for James Madison.
Well, that was going to be my guess, but I didn't want to say it because I didn't want to look like a fool if I got it wrong.
My joke about Madison, well, I know if it's a joke, but I'm going to ask you this question. So James Madison apparently really loved ice cream, and his wife would make really good ice cream. So that, they'd have like parties at the White House. His wife would make ice cream for these parties at the White House. And Madison's favorite flavor, can you guess his favorite flavor? And if you have a guess, write in the chat.
I mean, is there a hint? I feel like
It's a weird flavor.
I have no idea how I would even begin to.
Oh, Aloha! I do want to point out too that not everything's unaffordable on Fifth. Here we have Uniqlo and Hollister, and Zara. Okay, so I'm going to give you a hint about James Madison's favorite flavor. It's a very weird flavor, and there's something almost fishy about it.
I don't know, salmon flavor ice cream?
It's close. You're closer than most people ever guess. It's oyster ice cream.
Oh, okay. That seems like the kind of thing that they would make on that show Iron Chef when they battle oyster. Somebody's whipping up the oyster ice cream.
Yeah. What's the weirdest flavor ice cream that you've ever had?
Oh, I have no idea.
In the chat, if you want to let us know if you've had any like weird flavored ice cream. I'm actually going to try to cross here because this building is really interesting, but I think that we see it better from this corner. Don't know if I'm taking my life in my hands. I think we are, but here we go. Woo! Definitely running in front of a bus right now. The weirdest flavor ice cream that I've ever had, I've had lobster ice cream, which actually the lobster tasted a bit like white chocolate. And I've also had mushroom ice cream that they put on top of a salad. And that was really interesting.
I feel like, they're both from the sea, and lobster actually doesn't have that much flavor.
Yeah.
I feel like I've had maybe a butter popcorn flavor ice cream that was pretty bad, so something like that.
I don't like butter popcorn as a flavor. Okay, so right now we are looking at this beautiful building. Oh, hello, Maddie Trails in North Carolina. Thank you so much for joining. Right now, we are looking at this building that around Christmas time, you're going to see on literally every influencer's Instagram page. They just go crazy for this building because at Christmas time, they wrap the entire building up to look like it's a giant present. There's a giant red bow. It looks beautiful in photographs. But I actually think that how pretty it is one of the least interesting things about this building. So this is the House of Cartier. The House of Cartier, this whole building, used to be a single family home. Does it look just like your home in DC?
I don't even have a single family home, so no.
Does it look just like your apartment in DC?
Absolutely not.
So yeah, this is a single family home. Oh, we have all sorts of fun noise here on Fifth Avenue. Got a bus trying to cross the street, making all kinds of noise. This was a single family home that belonged to a man named Morton F. Plant. Morton F. Plant was a bazillionaire, and as is the case with most bazillionaires, he was a bit weird. And as more and more millionaires began to move up here, he was like, ew, gross, I don't want to live around other millionaires. And he wanted to just move, and he was like, please, somebody, take this building off my hands. And he ended up selling it in the very early 1900s to the House of Cartier for $100. So I always joke if I had a time machine, I could be like, this is my apartment.
Would be nice.
Yeah, so for $100, and the House of Cartier was like, you're literally joking. This is ridiculous. We feel kind of bad about it. So they ended up giving his wife this double strand of pearls, this necklace that she had been eyeing. And what's interesting is, even though we talk a lot about this double strand of pearls, to the best of my knowledge, like nobody knows like where they exist now. I think they may have been broken up and put into different pieces of jewelry. And there's no actual photo of these double strings of pearls. There's one painting of Morton F. Plant's wife wearing those pearls, and that's all we have. So I think that's kind of cool.
So what's with the French and the British and the Italian flags over there?
With the House of Cartier, I believe that that's just places where they have houses of Cartier, or like where they're really like firmly based. I just think the building's really pretty. It's really cool. Okay.
Now I'm curious is because I haven't been to New York City in a year, and I didn't come on Fifth Avenue the last time I was here. And it feels like there's a whole lot of people out here, and I don't know if that's because it's a holiday weekend, because the weather's nice, or if it's just always like that. Do you have any insight into that?
It is often very busy. It's kind of funny because during the pandemic, my fiance and I would take these really long walks, and we would walk from where we live in Harlem all the way to the end of Manhattan, the southern tip of Manhattan. And we'd walk down Fifth Avenue, and it was just really, really empty. Mm-hmm. I think that it still feels a little emptier than it did just before the pandemic, but I feel like now every time I come here, it is very busy. I kind of get annoyed because I want to get someplace and I can't. And especially like right in this area, First of all, you can probably tell if you're watching that there's a lot of noise all around. Here we have like an ice cream truck, there's people shouting. But we also have, this is the start right there of Rockefeller Center. And then across the street, we have St. Patrick's Cathedral, which is the largest neo-Gothic cathedral in the United States. So we often have lots of people standing here, taking pictures, getting very excited. And I'm like, oh, I gotta get to Saks Fifth Avenue. So here we are in a...
I feel like if I needed to get somewhere fast on foot, Fifth Avenue would be a poor choice, and 7th Avenue might be a poor choice. Maybe 6th would be better.
Yeah, I would actually very much agree with that statement.
I'm only, speaking as a visitor here who doesn't know all the secrets, but my observation seems like definitely some of these avenues are much more chill than the others.
I definitely agree. I will often walk along Madison, because like we mentioned earlier, it's much quieter, and I will often walk on 6th. And actually, I'm curious. Well, I do want to showcase this, but then I also want to make sure that I ask you to share your thoughts about how New York City has changed since your last trip here. But I want to point out right here, we're at Rockefeller Center. This is Atlas holding the world on his shoulders. I think it's very beautiful. It's a symbol of Rockefeller Center. But you have to imagine, it's here, and across the way, we have a Catholic church. We have St. Patrick's Cathedral. Now, St. Patrick's Cathedral was created by Irish immigrants. The Irish immigrants, when they were first coming over in the early 1800s, mid 1800s, even the late 1800s, New Yorkers and Americans, we really did not like the Irish. They were Catholic. We assumed that because Catholics had allegiance to the Pope, that they would not have allegiance to the president. So we really were like, we don't want the Irish here. There would actually be signs if you went to like Armani Exchange over there, and if it existed in like 1850, it would say Nina in the window. No Irish need apply. So the Irish came together and they said, we want to show that we can contribute something beautiful and wonderful to New York City and America. So like not only do we belong here, but we can contribute something wonderful. So they created the funding for St. Patrick's Cathedral, which to this day is still the largest neo-Gothic cathedral in the United States. So have this cathedral, it means so much to the Irish. We turn around and directly across the street, we get a pagan symbol. No! The people at St. Patrick's were very upset about this, but the artist said, oh, no. You see, if you look at St. Patrick's Cathedral from behind this sculpture, I'm going to try to get us a good image. It becomes Jesus on the cross. Now, does that illusion work for you?
No, I see it.
Yeah.
This is why you need to take a tour, because how many people, including me, today, walked past this, saw it, first of all, didn't even know what it was, and now that you've just told this to me, I'm blown away.
Oh, thank you.
So.
Yeah, and the other thing is Atlas is, kind of bending his knee, so in theory he is taking a knee and bending it down before the Catholic Church. There's always the question of, did the artist actually have that in mind, or was it a happy accident? But either way, actually write in the chat, if you're watching, if this illusion works for you. Does it look like Jesus on the cross to you? It did for the members of St. Patrick's Cathedral. They were happy with that answer, and so here we have Atlas holding the world on his shoulders, taking a knee, and looking like Jesus on the cross in front of St. Patrick's Cathedral.
if you're tuned in live, give a comment, because a lot of times when I do a live stream, I'll notice what I'm seeing when I go back and watch it later. I'm like, oh no, it didn't look that way on the stream. So always curious to know what people think. Also, it smells really good right there because there's a coffee truck. And one of my favorite things about New York City is that there's so much coffee everywhere. And I'm a coffee fiend, so I dig that.
Now, no one wants to see me on coffee. But this is actually an interesting coffee. Oh, Arlene says that it works for her, the illusion. So thank you for commenting, Arlene. So Ralph's is actually interesting. It's named for Ralph Lauren. Ralph Lauren is actually, I think his story is the quintessential New York City story. I don't know if you're aware of his story.
Vaguely.
So he was an immigrant, or his parents were immigrants. His original last name was Lifshitz, Ralph Lifshitz. He did not like that last name, so he changed his to Lauren. And he actually started out making neckties. And I heard that he actually sold neckties out of a drawer in the Empire State Building. And eventually people loved the neckties so much that they wanted suits to go with the neckties, and the women wanted clothing as well. And he became the Ralph Lauren brand that we know and love today, that even makes uniforms for the U.S. Olympic team. So there we have an immigrant, or the son of an immigrant, who is now making the uniforms for the U.S. Olympic team. I think that's wonderful. There used to be a Polo Ralph Lauren on Fifth Avenue, and attached to that was a Ralph's coffee shop. And it had really good coffee, really good pastries, but when the Polo Ralph Lauren closed, so did the coffee shop. So now they have that little truck that goes around. So I want to know, Rob, what are... Hi, Mark. Mark says hi, Rob.
Thanks for tuning in, Mark.
I want to know, Rob, what are your impressions? You came here a year ago, and I'm just curious, because I hear so much, like, oh, New York, it's become so horrible, it's so unsafe, it's so dirty in the past year. Now, I live here, so I don't really see the changes, but I'm interested to know what you think.
Yes, I will answer that, but I do want to say Mark Finley's tuned in, and he also came to New York City in the last year, I think, so probably has some interesting things, and I believe tested all the cheesecakes in New York City too. But
Mark, let us know.
This is so it's hard for me to compare this trip to the one I did 1 year ago, because a year ago I stayed downtown, and I don't think I even went north of 14th Street on the whole trip. And because New York's so huge and people don't appreciate that, and DC is huge too and people don't appreciate that, and so we're in Midtown right now. I didn't even come to Midtown last September, so it's hard to compare because I'm doing totally different things. But no, this has always been one of my favorite places to visit, and if anyone's ever come on a tour with me, I always talk about that because I come quite often, and it's because it's one of my favorite places. And yeah, I never considered, I shouldn't come for whatever reasons, and I think it's concerning that people wouldn't want to come to New York, because it's still a great place, and definitely has been this weekend that I've been here.
Yeah, Midtown is an interesting beast. It does feel very different than downtown or uptown or even the boroughs. It has a different energy to it. Now that you've visited, would you tell people, say that you had somebody on your tour and they're like, oh, New York, it feels very unsafe. Would you say, I went and I felt totally safe? I went.
Oh yeah, I would question that, especially if they say, I heard that, because I hear this a lot. People will say, I heard that, fill in the blank, and okay, I don't know where you heard it, but I can tell you, having gone there, that this is how I experienced it. So I always like to tell people how I experience things.
This is the thing I always joke about. So if you hold the gimbal real fast, I'm walking around essentially with a selfie stick. This is how I'm dressed. I'm literally wearing sparkle glitter on my body, and nobody's bothering me. So I think that in and of itself is a sign that New York City is okay in terms of safety. When a girl wearing a dress walking around with a selfie stick feels okay.
And I have no fashion sense, but yes, I feel perfectly good too. And Mark did leave a comment with his favorite cheesecake. If you could pull that up, I don't know how to pull up the comments here.
Oh, I had some crazies on the subway too, Mark. Okay, the best cheesecake was Ferrara's in Little Italy. Okay, I have...
The Manhattan Little Italy or the Bronx Little Italy? There's two, right?
I'm assuming there is. So Rob asked the Manhattan or the Bronx Little Italy, because there is an Arthur Avenue up in the Bronx that is, I would say, the quote-unquote real Little Italy. But Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, you're talking about the Manhattan Little Italy. And I'm curious, because I've had the cheesecake at Ferrara's, and it was really, really good. But I'm curious to know if you went to Eileen's famous cheesecake and if you went to Junior's, and if so, what did you think of those, and are they worth the hype? And while Mark answers that,
Now, I walked past Junior's because it's near a bunch of Broadway theaters, and to me, it looked like a very huge Times Square, a lot of tourists packed in. It didn't look like a place where a lot of locals were hanging out.
okay,
Is my observation accurate?
so Junior's, yes and no. Junior's does look like literally the most touristy place on the planet. And when I recommend it to my guests, I'm like, you're gonna go in and you're going to say, oh my goodness, this is the most touristy place on the planet. My tour guide was crazy. Why would she ever recommend this to me? But I think that their cheesecake is really amazing. And also, locals do go there. Me and David go there a lot with Eliza. It's right in the heart of the theater district, but I find that we'll go often, like if we're gonna see a Broadway show and our family and friends are from out of town, and we say, oh, let's go to Junior's. Otherwise, what at least I do is I get my cheesecake to go and I eat it at home in the comfort of my own home.
Well, Mark did weigh in here. Went to both Manhattan and the Bronx, and Eileen's was good, Junior's was just okay, kind of, I think he meant to say bland, unless you get it with a lot of extra flavors.
Interesting. Well, I respect that. I totally respect that.
I feel like it's great to ask a local for their favorite, but if you really want to get to the bottom of it yourself, because everybody has different tastes, you got to try them all yourself.
Exactly. Well, and I've also recently, and I do want to just point out, I'm going to say something else about cheesecake real fast, but I do want to point out right now we are looking at one of the two main roller skating rinks that we have this summer in Manhattan. This one is called Flippers. It has a 1950s feel to it. Carlos Bakery was dead last on our video. Oh, I'll have to watch your video. Oh no, it's beginning to rain. My cheesecake obsession currently is actually in Chinatown. It's a place called Kecky's Modern Cakes, and it makes a really fluffy cheesecake, and I will literally eat a whole cheesecake in one sitting. Now, I'm curious what these roller skaters are going to do.
Now, is this the spot where the ice rink is?
It is.
That's a tiny rink. I never appreciated how tiny the rink is over here. Because it's so famous, and now there's hardly anybody who can fit on the rink in the winter.
It's very tiny. You may recall that I was a competitive figure skater. Like, you can't do a competitive program on the rink.
I don't think you can get up any speed on here at all. It's so small.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, is roller skating hip? Because we don't have roller skating in DC. We have ice skating in the winter, and then it just turns into like landscaping and fountains in the summer. No roller skating for us.
We do have, it feels like this summer, roller skating's all the rage. Now, when I am thinking of anything hip, I am not hip. I am an opera singer and a history nerd. I do sometimes wear kind of hip frilly dresses, but other than that, I'm
You have a hip stepchild, though, so
I'm the biggest nerd.
You have access to what the teenagers think is hip.
Exactly. I go to Eliza, my kind of sort of stepdaughter, when it comes time to finding hip things. And roller skating is very, very hip. Her friends, they all have they've invested literally hundreds of dollars in these fancy roller skates, all different colors. They get dressed up sometimes to go roller skating. So apparently it's what all the cool kids are doing. Now, above the skating rink, there's this gold statue that is called Prometheus Bringing Fire to the People. And then above that, we have Rockefeller Center. So way up there. That is Top of the Rock. Now, have you been to Top of the Rock?
I've been to the Top of the Rock. I've been to Top of the Rock. I have not been to the new ones, the Edge or the one with the mirrors. Those seem to be the hip ones. The Top of the Rock seems kind of like the boomer of observatories.
You know, it's funny. People always ask me for my favorite observatory, and I have a very hard time answering. I'm partial to One World because I worked there. And by the way, if you visited, Mark and anyone else, if you visited and you have a favorite observation deck, please chime in I actually always have a hard time with Top of the Rock. I often try to say, this is the superlative about each observation deck. Top of the Rock, the superlative that I keep hearing people say is that you get a great view of the Empire State Building, and it's the lowest of all the observation decks, so you feel like the city is giving you a hug. So Top of the Rock is our favorite. So Escaping the Empty Nest.
That's Mark.
Unfortunately, I'm having a very hard time looking at the chat, but I know that Rob can look at the chat.
I got an eye on the
easily.
chat too.
For some reason, the chat keeps disappearing on my phone.
It's really hard to do a live stream. I struggle with it. The technology always fails me.
So I am curious to know more about why that is your favorite, because I know so many people love it.
Sounds like he likes Top of the Rock because of the view of Central Park.
It does have a really fantastic view of Central Park.
And there's no glass.
And yeah, the only glass, there are areas where you can stick your phone out and get no glass, and I believe that the top level doesn't have any glass.
Well, if I remember from when I went, there's a concrete wall that's pretty high, maybe 4 feet high or something. But you kind of walk up to it and you can look over the top of the wall. So if you're tall enough, if you're taller than a child, you should be able to see over and see the view without. Now, I visited kind of pre-smartphone days. This is a long time ago, so I didn't have to worry about the perfect photo. I was just there to observe, as one used to do. I know nobody does that anymore. From my own experience with people going up to the Washington Monument, for example. But
yeah, it is interesting how that has kind of changed. Summit One Vanderbilt is very specifically created for the Instagram experience. And speaking of the Instagram experience, I am not going to do this because I have done this and I got soaking wet. But we have this fountain. It's by an artist, I believe his name is Yepa Hein. I really hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And if you time it right, you can stand in the middle of these fountains and not get wet. I did not time it right, and the fountain ended up soaking me, but it's kind of fun to watch people in these fountains.
I was almost going to go in here earlier today, but I was afraid of getting soaked, and I have no way of changing clothes, so without going all the way back to the hotel, which is not that far away, but at least a mile away, so I didn't want to do it.
You can see some of these kids, they're very purposefully getting wet. But let's see if they get wet. Sometimes you get impatient while you're waiting for the fountain, and then the fountain goes up and you're like, what? Yeah, they're waiting for their photo moment.
Now this appears to me to be a temporary fountain. It's kind of 2 feet off the floor, so this is not permanent, is it? Is this just for the summer?
It's just for the summer.
Okay.
I forget what the last date is. Oh, here we go. Yay! I forget what the last date is, but I think it'll definitely be down by the end of September. Then they usually have a autumnal thing here. And then we have the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree that goes up. And I'll try to show you the exact spot where the Christmas tree goes.
Now I have to just observe as a visitor here, this is not a big plaza, so in the winter when everybody's here trying to skate and be near the tree, it's just got to be packed with people, just completely packed.
It is. It really is. I often have student groups around Thanksgiving, and they always want to come and see the tree, even though it's usually not lit up yet. And it's just so many people. It's so hard to get anywhere close.
That's really interesting to me because in DC, the week of Thanksgiving is one of the slowest, chillest weeks of the whole year, and it's the complete opposite here. And everybody wants to come see the parade and look at the tree and everything else.
We're so proud of our tree that we have this plaque that basically says, yo, this is where we put the Christmas tree every year. But yeah, we definitely, if you don't like crowds, this is not the place. Say hi.
Hello.
This is not the place to be at Thanksgiving. because we have the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. So that kind of starts everything. Fifth Avenue, you get all of the windows that have these amazing holiday displays. We have holiday markets that people come for. We have the Christmas tree that's here.
Now, do people still come to this plaza for the Today Show? And like Al Roker comes out and like interviews people in the crowd. Where are you visiting from? Why are you here? All that stuff. Does that still happen?
They do. That's actually, so I'm going to turn around. I'm going to turn us around. And if you look right there, you'll see NBC News.
I see NBC News. I'm not sure if it shows up on the live stream, but yeah, I see it there.
Yeah. So that is where the Today Show Plaza is. We can actually go walk through Today Show Plaza.
It's been a long time since I've watched the show because it's on in the mornings and I do other things in the morning, so I don't watch TV in the morning. But I remember it from when I was a kid, before school, turning on, and you would see, how long has Al Roker been on the Today Show? But he would go out there and all the hosts, and people would get so excited to be on the show. Like that was a part of their trip, part of their vacation was to come down here first thing in the morning and hang out.
Yeah, it's still something I often, when I have student groups, they'll all make signs and they'll, say hi mom, hi dad, or hi Principal Smith, and they'll try to get seen on the Today Show and say hi. I had a group once that practiced singing, I think it was God Bless America, and they ended up singing it on the Today Show, so that was really fun. Now, when we walk through this area, it's not going to look like much right now because they're able to set up and take down that set really fast. But this is the plaza. What is my favorite? Chapstick normally. Dark Samus 100.
So that's where the host desk is in there, right? And then I guess it's all covered up with a tarp right now or
just
something.
To answer my favorite chapstick, because I don't wear chapsticks. I wear lipstick.
maybe that's what they meant.
It's called Lancome Crushed Rose. But yes, there's different places where they'll set up areas for the Today Show. To be honest, I'm not sure I've actually peeked in here myself, but you can actually, hello, you can actually see it's I don't know if it's showing up on the anti-glare thing.
It kind of looks like a garbage bag from over here. It doesn't look very nice.
Yeah, but if you look through it, you can see it says NBC Nightly News. There is, what we're seeing, again, I don't know if you're seeing on the live stream, but what Rob and I are seeing is you can see some camera equipment. You can see it says NBC Nightly News, and there's a little bit of a host desk set up in
So
there.
the Nightly News, they sit facing away from the windows. That's interesting.
Oh, you know what? That makes sense, though, because if you look, right here, this isn't, if you're thinking about what's going to show up on camera, this isn't going to be the most amazing view.
Right.
It's going to be kind of dark. There's not a lot of lights. You have a little bit of twinkle lights, but you don't have that amazing skyline that people really crave when they're watching a New York City news show.
But that's why when they do the local news, like NBC4, they're just on a green screen with the skyline of the Capitol in the background or something. It's not, because they're in a studio uptown, where there's no view at all or anything.
ABC Studios, that's where they do Good Morning America, and that's in Times Square, and they have, the background is you going, looking in.
I mean, I'm old enough to remember when they used to play Total Request Live from Times Square, and we all thought it was the coolest place in the world, the studio.
I mean, Times Square is the coolest
Looking
place.
down over time, I don't know what the intersection is, but it's right kind of near where the ball drops over there somewhere.
Probably around 43rd or 44th Street.
Now Mark says he wants to play in the Tuba Christmas. I don't know what that is.
What is the Tuba Christmas?
The
I don't
New
know
York
that I know.
Tuba Christmas. I'm not familiar with the Tuba Christmas.
One of the interesting things about Rockefeller Plaza is just how big it is. It's kind of like 3 blocks, and then they also own some buildings off of 6th Avenue. And when I get student groups...
Now, have you ever gone to Saturday Night Live? Have you ever attended?
I have.
How does one acquire tickets to that?
You know, if my mom's
Or do you just have to get lucky?
If my mom is watching, she's literally sitting there right now going, I told Megan to make a video about this. I told Megan to make a video about this. She has requested this video many, many times. So if you would like a video on how to get tickets to shows such as Saturday Night Live or The Today Show or Jimmy Fallon or any of the shows, let me know in the chat. Write it in the comments.
I think sometimes, I don't know if they filmed the show in LA or New York. Like I think Stephen Colbert might be in New York, but then some of the other shows might be in LA.
Right. I believe that Jimmy Fallon is here, Saturday Night Live is here, Stephen Colbert is here. But to be honest, I don't know, someone else got me the tickets to Saturday Night Live and invited me, so I went. And I will have to do research and get back to you on that.
Because I always thought that these were free tickets to these like late night shows because they want to fill the audience. But that some of the more popular ones, there's more demand than there are free tickets available. So there's some sort of process you have to go through to get them.
Arlene says that would be a great video. I'd love to see Stephen Colbert. Okay.
I don't know if anyone has ever made such a video. You might have the first one.
If any other New York City content creators are out there, just know that I said I was going to make this video.
So Mark says the Tuba Christmas is hundreds of tuba players giving a concert at the ice rink playing Christmas carols. And NYC was the first one. Is that an officially sanctioned thing, or is that a spontaneous tuba concert?
Just want to show you my face for that. I was like, oh, because that sounds so cool. I'm going to try to turn this around again.
And then the other thing that when I was a kid, I learned that most of those late night shows are not live. I think there's a famous episode of Seinfeld where, you know, Jerry's mother's trying to explain to the father that they don't film, you know, it's filmed at 5 p.m. or something like that. So you don't have to stay up late to go to the recording.
Well, Saturday Night Live is actually live.
Yes.
That one is live. And I technically went to a dress rehearsal of it. So they have a dress rehearsal. Part of the reason for the dress rehearsal, I think, is in case something goes horribly wrong, they technically have footage that they can use.
Oh.
And then the other thing is that the dress rehearsal is actually significantly longer than the actual show. So they see which sketches get a really good reaction and which sketches don't get a really good reaction. And that was really interesting to watch the dress rehearsal and then to go home and to watch the actual show. Because we saw what changed, what got cut, what got changed within the sketches, and also what went wrong. We're like, oh, that was way funnier in the dress rehearsal versus...
That's actually, I feel like that's a good trip hack right there, because I give this a similar one, which is on the 4th of July. There's the National Independence Day, Capitol 4th is the name of it, the concert, and there's a dress rehearsal the day before. So it's like if you want to go see it the day before, get the sneak peek, you can go to the full dress rehearsal rather than go to the live event.
Well, and here's something interesting about Saturday Night Live. So when I actually went to see Saturday Night Live, the dress rehearsal, on the night that Joe Biden was declared the winner of the election. So news was changing very, very, like, it was happening very,
so they had
fast.
to rewrite the jokes, is what you're saying?
Well, one of the biggest things was so Kamala, she wore like a white pantsuit when she gave a speech, and they wanted to include some of that in the actual show. So I didn't see that because that had not happened yet. And the dress rehearsal was in the evening. I think I went at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. And between the dress rehearsal and the actual show, they not only had to write the sketch, but they had to costume the sketch. And everything was closed. And there was a whole article about how difficult it was to find Kamala's like white pantsuit.
Well, I appreciate it. I can barely do a live stream on YouTube with just myself, so I can't imagine trying to do a live TV show with characters and actors and all that. Got to give props for it.
Let's actually go to the crosswalk and go window shopping, finish up over there. Also, just real fast, I kind of think this is cool. This is called Channel Gardens. So we have houses that represent France and England. So let's see if we can get a little bit closer. You'll see the different buildings. So here we have the British Empire building, and we have a coat of arms up there. And then we have a building that represents France on the other side. And Channel Gardens is supposed to be the channel between England and France. And up here, these were all major exports of England or the United Kingdom at one point in time, the British Empire. Up, we have the bells of St. Patrick's.
So the tuba concert is fully planned. It is an official function.
Well, I'm going to have to cover the tuba concert.
I was not aware of the tuba concert, and it's been happening for 50 years, so
Does he know the date of the tuba concert?
It's a bigger deal than either of us have realized.
Does he know the date of the tuba concert?
Yes, good question. I feel like it's close enough that they would have chosen a date for this year by now, perhaps.
They've announced the holiday market opening dates. Those are the first kind of Christmassy dates I've seen. Now this is kind of fun for me. It's going to be less fun, I think, for you because you're not as enamored of Saks Fifth Avenue as me. But these windows were not unveiled yesterday. So these are brand new windows that we get to look at. And, I mean, I always think that the windows are pretty, but if you come here at Christmas time, they literally hire, I don't think they've announced yet, I'll let both of you know when the concert dates are. They literally have Broadway set designers, movie set designers, all working on the windows for all of these department stores at Christmas. And I love doing a live walk, so I'll definitely do a live holiday window walk when those windows get unveiled.
So what is the purpose of the window is people look at these and they just want them so bad that they have to go into the store and spend money on them? Is that that's the intent?
True. Now, it might not work on you as someone with a lot of willpower, but it does not, it does work on me. I'm walking by and I'm looking at that sparkly top, and I'm like, ooh, sparkly top, must have the sparkly top. And then at Christmas time, because there's such a big commotion about the windows, in theory, it gets people here at all. Some people would just say, oh, Saks is way too expensive for me, so I would never go in. And then they're here, so they say, may as well go in as long as I'm here.
Ah, I see.
So it kind of draws people in.
And are the holiday ones holiday themed?
Yes.
Or is it just stuff they're trying to sell because it's time when people are buying gifts?
They always have something to do with the holidays. You have the holiday feel. That being said, let's go back to Channel Gardens and we'll finish up in Channel Gardens. That being said, there have been years where some of the department stores will partner up with a movie. So for example, Bloomingdale's partnered up with The Greatest Showman one year and they had The Greatest Showman themed windows. Saks partnered up with Disney for Frozen 2.
Huh.
And I loved that because I loved Frozen. I love Frozen so much. And the Saks windows, there's always a giant light castle outside, and there's music, and the lights dance around. And they had music from Frozen 2, which made me very happy. But they always put a twist to it. So it's the characters from The Greatest Showman celebrate Christmas. But of course, they also try to acknowledge there are other religions, so you can definitely enjoy it even if you're somebody who does not celebrate Christmas. And often there will be something such as a Hanukkah window.
Now for the holidays, because I'm a noob and I've only ever watched it on TV, which avenue or streets is the Thanksgiving parade on?
That's a great question. It kind of changes. When I say it changes, it's almost always the same path. But it starts on Central Park West, which is almost like a continuation of 8th Avenue. So it begins at the American Museum of Natural History, so near 81st Street and Central Park West. That's where they inflate the balloons.
Okay.
The parade then goes down Central Park to Columbus Circle. When it gets to Columbus Circle, it walks kind of halfway around the circle, and then I believe it goes down 7th Avenue. Might somehow switch to 6th at some point in time, down to 34th Street, and when it gets to 34th Street, it turns right or heads west, and that's when it gets to Macy's. And there's a giant star on in front of Macy's on 34th Street between 7th Avenue and 6th Avenue.
Yo, is that a llama from Florida?
Now, I think when I watch it on TV, if I remember correctly, they have the cameras on a fixed spot, so you don't actually see the parade route. You only see the one spot where they have the performances, and that's kind of it.
That is correct. And having given a lot of tours to students who are playing in bands in that parade, there is a special performance that they rehearse, sometimes for years, that they perform on this star. They're like, this is the star, this is what we're going to rehearse, we have this it's very precise. They know they're going to perform at like 10:32, so they know at 10:32 they're going to have to run out, they have to hit their place on the star. But throughout the rest of the parade, it's like much more relaxed. They can kind of play other songs that the band has rehearsed and maybe plays for other events. And the floats, you can have more fun when you're just not on the star. That's the high pressure moment. Now, I don't think that I will be doing it this year because I am really lazy and don't like waking up to get a good spot for the parade. But there are people like my friend Sifat, who has the NYC walking show, that will actually find a spot along the parade route that's not the same spot that NBC is showing you. So if you want a different view,
Oh, that's good to know.
look at them. And
Well-
I think Urbanist Exploring Cities sometimes does it as well.
My friend Jay has joined and was here in New York 4 weeks ago. I think you were only here for what, two days or something, Jay? Not enough time to experience New York City. I can confirm that.
We're
but
such a cute couple.
it's not enough time for exploring a lot of places. So, oh yes, Josh. I think we're gonna wrap up here now.
Yeah, I think we're going to wrap up. Getting so many text messages. I'm like, don't watch my live. Don't text me. Watch my live. I do want to say thank you for everybody who tuned in. I don't do a lot of lives. They make me like a little nervous. I'm always like, what if no one shows up? So
They're also hard to do. The technology almost never works. So if it worked today, that's, in my eyes, a true miracle.
it's because you're a lucky charm.
I don't know about that, but yeah.
So thank you so much for watching. I hope that you learned something and discovered something new to love about New York City. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe to my channel and also to Rob's channel, Trip Hacks DC. He has not only great information about DC, but great information about traveling in general to help you get your best travel tips and tricks. And I just did one today about travel content and how to find good travel content versus bad travel content, because you don't want to end up like me and end up being influenced to go to Greece in October because people who didn't know any better told you to do that and everything was closed and you couldn't have fun.
There's a whole story time with that, but yeah, you got to be careful because this is your vacation, this is your trip, and there are lots of people out there who are more than happy to give you advice for whatever their reasons, and it doesn't mean that it's any good or you should take it, so be careful out there.
Yeah, so check out his video about that, check out his whole channel, and thank you so much for watching.
Enjoy your trip.